Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some sourdough pancakes for breakfast. We're going to shape up our bagels for later and cook up some bacon and eggies and all that jazz. So let's start getting our bacon going. I'm just going to cook up a little bit of a pack that we already had, and then we're going to do some sausages as well. So we've got about 3/4 of a pack of bacon here, and I'm just going to put them in our skillet. I got the thick cut today. We'll have these fry up while we prep our batter for our pancakes. And I will say I do kind of a crazy fry on bacon. And, I don't make the perfect little strips when I'm pan frying it. But my kids like it that way. They like the little bacon bowl crumble things. I give my hands a quick wash. Okay, and now we're going to prep up our sourdough discard pancake mix. So we are going to start out with a cup of sourdough discard. Get my little spatula. I'm going to give it a little stir. There. I fed these up last night after we got home from my daughter's soccer game. Unfortunately, she hurt her knee, so we now have a free weekend. We were going to have soccer games all weekend, but she says it really hurts when she's walking and it's a little swollen. So we're going to just ice and rest it today, and hopefully by the end of the weekend she feels better. But gives us a free weekend, which we don't often have. So we want a cup of sourdough discard. I'll just use my spatula to scoop this all out. There we go. This is also nice when you need to use a good portion of discard. Pancakes, waffles, those always use a good chunk. They're more than, most recipes use a half a cup or a third cup, but this is a nice one that uses a whole lot. And we're going to add in a cup of whole milk. We're going to give this a nice stir and kind of have the discard and the milk kind of form a nice kind of creamy liquid together. There we go. And right now what we're doing is we're making the wet base for our sourdough discard pancakes, because I always like to do the wet ingredients and then add in the dry ingredients. Okay, we've got this stirred up well. And then I have 1/4 of a cup of melted butter, and we're going to add that in there and stir it up. Perfect. And then 2 eggs. So 1. And 2. And I'm going to pop the yolks.
You have a question? Someone that has never heard of sourdough discard, can you explain?
Yes. So sourdough discard is what you throw away from your sourdough starter. And starter is used to make breads. It's the leavening agent in sourdough bread, because traditional sourdough does not use yeast or to rise. And so it is a fermented flour that you keep on your counter, and it makes the bread rise. But we do have videos posted on the link about how you can make your own starter, how you can make sourdough bread. But the discard is essentially what you throw away from it when you need to feed it. Otherwise, you'd have this massive pile of starter. So it just helps you keep it more at bay, and it has a nice sourdough tart, tangy flavor to it. I'm going to give our bacon a little thing. I'm going to turn my skillet down to a medium now that our skillet is nice and hot. That way I don't burn our bacon. So I've got my eggs mixed in here with our milk, our sourdough discard, and our butter. And now we're going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. This gives you, my pancakes aren't overly sweet because I like to leave the sweetness to the syrup. So the vanilla and a little bit of sugar just kind of helps bring out just a little bit of sweetness to them. We're going to stir in the vanilla, just 1 teaspoon. And then we're going to use 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. There we go. So not a lot of sugar in them because it's really what you're going to top them with, whether it's syrup, compote. That's going to really kind of highlight your pancakes. So we're going to stir that in, making sure it gets all mixed up, because once we add the flour in, we want to minimize the amount of stirring that we do, because that you want a nice lumpy batter for your pancakes. Okay, we're going to add in a teaspoon of salt. And then a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and then a tablespoon of baking powder. And this is with the eggs and the baking soda and baking powder. Those are what's going to make your pancakes nice and fluffy. And then a tablespoon of baking powder. Give this a nice mix up.
Yeah, a couple comments. They like your apron. And then where did you get the containers for the flour and sugar?
I got my apron from IKEA, and I love it. It was like $5, so it was such a good steal. It's one of those things where I love it, especially when it was such a good price. My containers, I got them on Amazon, actually. I just looked for storage containers, and I use them I get the really big ones. You can have the smaller ones that don't work as well for like flour and whatnot, but you can get them in a set there. I love them because I don't know if people have this problem all over, but in the South, you can get pantry moths, which come in like a baked good or a package, and it's just like something that lives in like boxes. But my parents growing up, we always had really terrible pantry moths that would then like get into your flour, anything that wasn't perfectly sealed. So the way I combat it is everything that is open goes into a container. So like all my kids' cereals, our flour, sugar, everything, pasta goes into one. And I have never had a pantry moth here. So it's like it's a way, because I think they're gross. And so keeping it sealed also keeps your ingredients really fresh. So like I'll put the kids, like if we get, chips or crackers, they go in there, they last so much longer than if you have them just left in their boxes or their bags. Okay, give our bacon a little stir. Now we've got all of if you can see here, my batter has even puffed up some. That is the baking soda, the baking powder reacting with the sourdough discards, kind of like a baking soda vinegar experiment. So they're nice and puffy, which will be great for when we eat them. And now we're going to add in 1.5 cups of flour. Now, the trick is not to over mix your batter, because if you over mix it, you're going to get firm, tough pancakes, and you want nice, light, and fluffy. So we got 1 cup, and now we need 1/2 cup more of all-purpose flour.
Yeah, where's the skillet from?
The skillet is hex clad. So it's a hex clad, I believe, 12-inch griddle pan. And I absolutely love it. I used to have a big, long skillet thing, and it just never worked well, especially on an electric cooktop, because you don't have two even circles for your heating elements. And I love this one, especially it has such a low rim. I use it almost every day. I use it for grilled cheeses, pancakes, tortillas, naan. It was one of those things where I bought a bundle of my frying pans from Hexclad, and they're expensive. I treated myself to them after we had to live without a kitchen for almost 6 months, 4 to 6 months, while I was pregnant and had a baby during that time. So imagine having 5 kids and no kitchen, no dining room, no laundry room. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself to a nice things. And I had seen so many videos of Gordon Ramsay cooking with them. And I was like, well, if he likes them, they must be good. I love them. They are truly indestructible. I have not scratched them. And And this was the skillet was like a $99 add-on. And I was like, sure, it's $99. It's better than paying full price. And I have used it so often. So it's definitely a good thing. Okay, so here we've got our nice lumpy pancake batter, which is what you want. You want it nice and lumpy. Don't resist the urge to make it smooth because the lumpiness is what's going to get it nice and fluffy. Okay, we're going to warm up our skillet here. We're going to let that sit for a minute because the more you let it sit, the puffier your pancakes will be because it has a chance for the baking soda to continue interacting with the sourdough. Give my bacon here a little stir. So I got my skillet. I'm warming it up to like 6. Let me get a little bit of butter. And you don't have to do a lot of butter on your skillet. I just like to do a little bit in between batches because I do love that kind of crispy butter crunch on like when you fry like the very outside edges of the pancake. I love that. That's something I love. So you can only get that with the butter. While my skillet is warming up here, we are going to be baking up some sourdough bagels later today. So I've got my dough, my sourdough rising from last night. I made it and we've left it out on the counter. It was like a ball this small, and this is straight up sourdough.
You have another question about the head side? Do they have a non-stick coating like Teflon?
It is like Teflon, but it is not Teflon. That's their biggest thing, that it is not Teflon, so it doesn't have that, I guess, that poison in it if you scratch it. And
what is it, non-stick?
It is non-stick. So yes, it is non-stick like that. It has these little hex clads, which I guess they say make it indestructible. It almost feels like a skillet, like a cast iron skillet. So it is, but it's not Teflon, but it has a non-stick coating on it, and it works. It works great. Like I said, things can slide right off of it when you cook, and I have yet to scratch it. So, and I've used some things. So we're going to make about 8 bagels with this. This is like straight up sourdough. So there was no yeast or anything in this. And you kind of have to shape them in steps. So we'll shape them into our bagel form, and then we're going to let them rise again after we shape them. Give this a nice, I'm going to turn my skillet down just a little bit. Okay, I think we've got this skillet warming up. Let me find my pancake spatula. I like a nice thin spatula for pancakes. That way you can slide under. I'm just going to spread this around. Very nice. And let me get my little measuring cup. For some reason, I love to use, this is 1/4 of a cup. I love to use 1/4 of a cup measuring cup for my pancakes. And it's going to be a nice kind of thick, chunky batter, but as it heats up, the butter in it melts, and you'll get those nice, fluffy pancakes, which is nice because it's easier to scoop up and out. There we go. So I'm going to turn it down to a 4 because we want our pancakes to cook low and slow. You don't want them to get brown really fast and then they burn up. And so you want to do nice and low. Wait for the bubble. I'm going to turn my bacon down a little bit more. Thick bacon, you got to cook a little bit longer than thin bacon. So you want to just keep going a little bit lower and lower with heat so it doesn't burn. Now for our bagels here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pinch them into a perfect, like a little ball like this. And then you just push your thumb through, and we're just going to stretch into our little donut shape, or donut bagel shape. Now bagels, I love them, but they do take a while. They're like 12 hours before you get a bagel, but it's just simple resting. So what we'll do is these will rest on here until our lunchtime stream. We're going to do lunch with some bagels, make bagel sandwiches again. What we'll do is we'll boil them and then we'll bake them up. But you want to after you do this, you want to let them rise a little bit more to get that nice kind of puffy sourdough bagel here. But they're really not that hard. When you're making them, make the circle in the middle bigger because as they rise, they will close right back up again. So let me slide this in the middle. So the first time I made them, I made my little like hole really small, and then they were more like a bagel roll. Okay, our bacon here is looking pretty good. Got it nice and crisp up. I always like to transfer my bacon to a paper towel so that it can let all the grease come out and it will crisp up nicely. There we go. And then we're going to throw our sausages in our bacon grease to kind of cook them up as well. The pancakes take a lot longer, the first batch of pancakes. So I'm always watching them, but until our skillet is really consistent and hot, it takes like twice as long, sometimes 3 times as long for that first batch of pancakes. So I haven't forgotten about them, but I'm just waiting because if you flip them too early, you'll have that really pale one, which won't be good. So we're going to pinch these again into a nice ball. And then just through the middle, and you just kind of stretch it. And this is for our sourdough. And what I do is, so the dough is all of the same, but where you get your different flavors is the toppings that you put on them after you boil them and right before you bake them. So last time I made bagels, I did everything plain, a cinnamon crunch, and Italian herbs and cheese. I do have like a video of that posted on our link on our page if you want to see how we made those. So today I think we're going to do a couple different seasonings. Then we'll keep the plain is always great because everyone just loves a bagel with cream cheese, or the way my kids like it is butter and cinnamon and sugar. But we're going to do some other bougie ones later as well. But these, when I make them, and I make 8, which is about, we're a family of 7, so there's typically not much left over, but they're gone within a day. Everybody eats one, and then that last one, it doesn't make it past mealtime. They're so good. But they're nice to have. I said my kids eat a lot of bagels, and I was like, I need to get back into making them. They're really not that hard. Because it's really, you do a little bit of work here, and then you rest and wait. Like with sourdough, everything is a waiting game with sourdough. Okay, I'm starting to see some bubbles through on here, but let's see. Nope, still not ready yet. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit warmer. I'm going to rotate. There we go. I'm going to squeeze it through. And then give it a little roll. And I find this method is the best. I know some will roll a big snake and then try to reattach it. I find that just poking a hole and stretching works a lot better because it doesn't come apart. There we go. And now we have our set of sourdough bagels that we're going to sit and rise. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a clean towel. You're going to put a little dampness on it. So just kind of get a little bit wet, not super wet, like this. And then you're going to lay it over the top of our bagels, which we will then set on our counter, and we're going to let them rise for another hour or so, 2 hours, whenever we're ready to boil them up. Let's see if there we go. I think we are ready for our first flip. There, we've got a nice golden brown one. Perfect. So these are our delicious sourdough discard pancakes. This is our first flip. They get the first one always take the longest, take a little bit longer, but then they'll get nice and cook up faster the second time around. Give our sausages a little swirl here. We're going to cook these off, and then we're going to take a little bit of that bacon grease out, and we're going to cook up our eggs. Okay. Now, and once you flip them, I will say the first, it always takes longer. You want to rush it, but I said don't Take your time with that first batch to get your skillet nice and warm, and then they'll cook nice and fast. We're gonna have some bananas and blueberries with our pancakes today because I did like an Amazon Fresh order, and we've already gone through 3 bundles, so we're winning here. But I thought I put in 6 bananas in my cart just to last us a couple days. I put 6 bundles of bananas, but they were so cheap. They were like 79 cents, so I didn't make the connection that they were bundles. And we have so many bananas, so I'm like, we are eating bananas for everything. Perfect. Like, look how quickly that second side cooked up. So we're ready. So fast. It said once you get your skillet nice and hot, then it goes really fast. I'm going to put a little bit of butter right here on there. And you can see the nice little bubbles in it. That is from the sourdough that makes it just really fluffy. There we go. And I only like to do 3 at a time because with my burner here, my skillet is actually a little bit larger than my burner. And so if I do 4, the outer end doesn't, it doesn't like cook as well. So I try to get them to be nice and even. We've got our sausages toasting up. Beautiful. And these are pre-cooked sausages, so I'm just giving, I like to cook them up in that bacon grease because it gives them a little crunch on them, a little bacony flavor, because who doesn't love bacon? Perfect. I'm going to rinse my blueberries here. And then we have our bananas because we have so many bananas. It makes me think of this song, which is such a random song, but it's like 30,000 pounds of smashed bananas. It's like a folky song. I just remember hearing it a lot growing up. There we go. Let's check our thing because, again, they're going to cook much faster. See? Turn it down to a 3. Perfect. And this is the nice, you can see the bubbles in there, which is really indicative of sourdough because it's that the gas from the fermentation process really like kind of comes out, which makes them so fluffy and delicious. Okay, we've got our sausages here. I'm going to put them on my bacon plate. Again, I like to put them on the paper towel too, just to take up any of that extra grease.
If you have a comment, you can make banana bread.
I'm sure we're gonna have them once they get to that stage. But with banana bread, you have to wait until they're brown. So I feel like I'm gonna be making banana bread, banana muffins, banana donuts in this next coming week because I don't know. It looks like we have 20 to 25 bananas left because there's like 7 on each one. So I have a feeling that we will have plenty to make banana bread, banana muffins, and banana donuts, which are one of my kids' favorites. And growing up, I don't know if you guys used to eat banana bars, but I love banana bars that you kind of like make a banana cake and you do a cream cheese frosting on them. So I was like, we might be able to make every banana concoction under the sun. Okay, we've got 3 bananas sliced up here. So we're taking them down. Well, the problem is, and I'm sure people have, your kids love them one moment and then they won't eat them the next. So it's like, it's kind of hard because you want them to be gone, but if the kids don't eat them, okay, just a little bit on that. Okay, so we have our lovely bacon grease for our eggs. Now the trick is you don't want to use all of that bacon grease in your egg because it just would lead to a really greasy egg. So what we're going to do is let me get a paper towel. I'm going to pour a little bit of it out into this dirty thing because we don't want to pour it down the drain. And then while I have it down, I'm just going to take and some of these burnt Crispies, I'm going to just carefully wipe them out. Not all of them, but the ones that are not as nice. You want a little bit in there, but you don't want to go overboard. There we go. So then we've got a little bit of our bacon grease in there, but not all the burnt crispies. And this will be perfect for frying up our eggs. That's why I said a little goes a long way with bacon grease. It has a lovely like saltiness to it. Okay. Nice, perfect golden pancakes. And we're going to get this next batch out. And then we'll start cooking up our eggs. I'm going to turn it up just a teensy bit. There we go. And then I said this batch makes, I will around 12 or so pancakes, which is perfect. You know, we're a big family, so, you know, we have 7, and so you don't need to have so many pancakes for everyone. I like to have them as a side with everything versus like a big plate of pancakes. Okay.
You got a question? What do you do with the bacon grease that you put in that cup?
So what I will do is I put a paper towel in there, and then I'll take, once it's cooled, I take that paper towel and I scrape it all out and I throw it away, because I feel like I never have a chance to use it. A lot of people keep it and use it for other things. I just throw it away. I put it in the trash can. So always make sure it's in there. A lot of times whenever I fry bacon, I clean up the pan with a paper towel so that absorbs all of it. Because if you put bacon grease down your sink, you will have a very expensive plumbing bill, especially if you live in an older house like we do. I used to not be as good about making sure my bacon grease went in the trash can. And one year, it was, of course, during Christmas when all the pipes are cold, we couldn't use our sink and our dishwasher and our washing machine. Everything backed up. We called the plumber out, and apparently it was one of the worst grease clogs they had ever seen, and they spent like 6 hours working on it. It was the messiest thing ever. But it essentially, the grease just kept coating our pipes until it was a complete and total blockage. So now I'm very careful about where my grease goes.
Hey, you have a question? Do you ever make biscuits and gravy?
I do make biscuits and gravy. I think I have a video of it on the link on our page that has my biscuit and gravy recipe there that you can follow. I make biscuits probably once every 2 weeks. We make them fairly often, not always for breakfast. Sometimes we do them for dinner. But we do love, and I have a great sourdough discard biscuit recipe that is so flaky. It has so many flaky layers, because the trick to get all of your flaky layers is the press and fold with the butter. When you're mixing the batter, you don't over mix it. You just press and fold them together. And my biscuits, you'll have to just go and look, but they go from here to like that big, and you can see every layer like it's like the Grand Canyon. There we go. So we're going to just do a quick scramble on my eggs. I never scramble them in a bowl. I don't want to waste dishes. So what I do is just scramble them in here as soon as they get in there, but cook them on low. There we go. Because kids have some strong opinions about how their eggs should be cooked. Everyone pretty much likes scrambled eggs, except me and my 15-year-old daughter. She has come to the side of reason, and she loves a fried egg like her mama. I love my fried eggs. But my 3-year-old, if you give that boy a fried egg, he is so mad. He once, literally, I had the fried egg. I had it off the skillet. He picked the egg up and he put it back on the skillet, and he was scrambling. And I was like, well, you can't scramble an egg once it's fried. But then I chopped it up into little pieces, and he ate it, even though it was just a fried egg chopped up. But he has very strong opinions about his eggs, and they can only be scrambled. Little tips and tricks for your scrambled eggs. If you like a really rich scrambled egg, add an extra yolk. That gives you a nice, rich, denser, more luscious scrambled eggs. If you like a fluffier scrambled egg, add about a tablespoon of milk. That extra milk, when you whip it in there, allows your eggs to have, whips in more air and allows them to be a bit more fluffy, like what you can get at restaurants or like fast food. They have fluffier eggs. But those are two ways that you can make your eggs like stand out. So like it just depends. Like my mom really loves nice rich eggs, and so she always adds in an extra yolk, which gives them also a richer yellow color. I'm just a simpleton, and I'm just like, here's your eggs, here's how you're gonna get them. Just gonna crack them in there. We're gonna sprinkle just a little bit of salt over them. I always like to salt them at the very end of cooking. And then my kids, a lot of people, there are different ways that they'll eat their eggs. They either eat them snotty with a little bit of runniness, or they like them dry. I like mine, the kids like them right at the point where they have turned dry. So what I do is I cook them to where they are a little bit wet, and then I remove them off the heat, because in the next few minutes, they will continue to cook on their own and steam out that last bit. But if you cook them until they're dry, they'll get too dry, and that's when they get kind of like they break apart. So the trick is to cook them just right before and then remove them from the heat. And that way, for us, that works for us because it takes us a hot minute to plate everybody up. So you want them to be, done in time. And so I'll take them out, and then they'll just steam for the rest of the way. Let's get our last batch on here. There we go. But again, this recipe makes about 12, I want to say 4-inch pancakes. There we go. Got to use all of it. You don't want any of it to go to waste. And let me get a spoon. We're going to stir up our blueberries. We'll get ready to plate up in just a second. Now, if you want to do a blueberry pancake, here's what you can do. I'll make one blueberry because I know my littlest Jackie will like it. So you just take your blueberries now, and this is a way that you can change up if you have a lot of varied opinions about blueberries or chocolate chips or M&Ms. You just put them in there like this, and then you don't have to make a bunch of different batters. You can have a specialty pancake. You can put chocolate chips in them, because not everybody likes a blueberry one or chocolate chip ones. And this is what I do when they want like different varieties, is then I'm like, okay, I can just throw these in. That way you can have your base, you can have your regular pancakes, and you can please everybody. Because if you have a lot of kids, nobody is pleased, nobody is happy. Trust me. I was the youngest of 10. And I never understood my mom when she would be like, well, I can't make anybody happy. You know what I mean? And I was like, I get it, because no matter what you do, there's always going to be a grumbling somebody. There's very few meals in our house that every kid likes. They all have opinions, which they're allowed to have opinions. But when you're cooking the food, you're like, no opinion. Okay, let's plate up our delicious pancakes. So we've got our pancakes, and we're going to have some fresh fruit. Of course, we'll have our sausage and our bacon, and let's not forget our scrambled eggs. And we'll have our pancakes with some nice banana or butter and syrup. But again, these are our sourdough discard pancakes. We used a whole cup of discard in them. And they're going to give you that nice fluffiness. So we crisped up our bacon and our sausage, scrambled up some eggs, and now we're having some bananas and blueberries, because apparently I don't know how to order bananas. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. We try to do live cooking shows every single day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd like to show you guys what we're cooking, making for our families. And again, all of our recipes and our videos we upload on the link on our page. It takes us a little while, but we try to put all of our streams there. So if you like a recipe, you can go back and watch it and figure out how to cook it. Well, guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to like